you doing, Rashid? No. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that resolution website? No, I don't think so. Because nobody had an option or the opportunity to read what the county did. Now, that's what was said. Does that necessarily mean that's what's going to happen? On the reroll?
What the hell is that?
That's fine. That's fine.
There it is.
It's up to you guys.
Yeah. It's probably not
Yeah.
that bad.
Oh, okay. Now we know the priority order. Get the hell out of here. Just because she has hair.
I don't
Damn
have
it.
one of those, do they?
I don't
It's on
know.
the floor, never mind.
You want it or no?
No,
Do you
I'm
need
at
the power?
67%. I should be okay.
Carry okay in power? Because I can pull this one. So.
I have my own power cord. I am now.
All right, what are we doing? Who's in charge?
67 would be fine.
Should be. What agenda are we doing?
I think she said ours because we have
Development.
people here so they can read.
Okay.
Carol,
Carol
Jim,
first. Yeah, no, mine's pretty short. Yep.
Carol, Jim, and Kathy.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys ready?
Let's go.
Trustee Fenn.
Here.
Trustee Dodge.
Here.
Trustee Ruzick.
Here.
Development Services. Approval of minutes.
Madam Chairman,
Trustee Fenn.
move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Development Services Planning and Engineering Committee of February 19, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Village Code Amendment Title 5, Chapter 2 fees.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. I was just going to put the motion on the floor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Move to recommend to the village board approval, Title V, Chapter 2 fees amendments as part of the village code.
Second.
Carrie, can you just give us a brief summary of these changes?
Yeah, this is basically just clarifying that for those permits that are required to be submitted and paid for, but they don't require a plan review, we're clarifying what those costs are going to be. If you remember at the beginning of the year, we adjusted all of our building permit fees for 2018, and this is just cleanup, so make sure there's no confusion between a permit that requires a plan review and a permit that doesn't.
Okay.
Just a quick question. So we know So the people who are going to be under these fees, how are they going to know?
We, actually, the ones that are licensed and contracted, we send emails out to them. We have that information. And
Got
we
it, got
also,
it.
we have our
So you'll-
TV monitors, everything,
It's
so.
just a matter of pushing
Yep,
so they're
yep.
notified.
Okay. All right, we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Amendments to Title VI, Chapter 1 Health Code.
Madam Chair,
Trustee
move
Fenton.
to recommend to the village board approval of local revisions to Title VI, Chapter 1 Village Code.
Second.
Carrie, you want to give us a brief overview?
Yeah, this is a clarification too for our code to just clarify that we actually do follow the FDA food code requirements. Sometimes there's some confusion because our code currently doesn't specifically state that. So this is clarifying it. And the reason why we want to clarify it is because we do require water source for hand washing and sanitizing, and the FDA code specifically requires that.
Okay, sounds like an important one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good thing.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
147th Street and Ravinia Avenue easement agreements with Commonwealth Edison.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Dodge.
move to recommend to the village board pass an ordinance entitled Ordinance Authorizing Acceptance and Execution of Utility Easements, 147th and Ravinia Roundabout.
Second.
Carrie, can you tell us what this is about?
Well, the roundabout's getting ready to start right here in front of Village Hall. Actually, we got the bids in through IDOT last week. We're finalizing those, but they came in very competitively. So this is the first phase of that project is the relocation of utilities. So we need to grant this easement to ComEd so they can get going. And actually, they're already out there working
Already
today.
out there, okay. Is there any
Just-
comments?
Just the usual, right? I think most people get used to roundabouts pretty quickly. I personally prefer them over stop sign intersections, but it'll be a shock to the system. So
A lot of education.
same thing with the notice, right?
Yes, a lot of education.
Okay, is there a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
9925 143rd Street on the road, again, re-roof.
I think,
And maybe we're going to request a continuance of this. There's some clarifications we need to do on the bids. So we're just going to ask to continue this to the next committee.
can you have a motion?
Motion to continue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Andy's Frozen Custard.
Madam Chair.
Trustee Dodge.
Move to recommend to the village board approval of special use permit with two modifications, site plan elevations and preliminary landscape plan. The proposed Andy's Frozen Custard Restaurant is recommended in the March 13, 2018 Plan Commission meeting and is fully referenced below. Plan Commission has made their findings in accordance with Section 5-109 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
I think this is pretty straightforward. This is,
Yeah, actually, we're excited. You know, frozen custard seems to be the thing right now, better than mattress stores. and sorry, I couldn't help
How
that.
many mattress stores from the same firm? That's like the trivia question for Orland right now.
We go in cycles. This cycle is not custard. So this is a new restaurant coming in right here in our VCD district, so we're excited about it.
I just-
Go ahead, Ken.
I just have one question. Just for clarification, that big ice cream cone is inside the building, up at the top, it's not going to be
Yes,
outside?
we have worked with the petitioner over a number of months to clarify what is allowed to be signage in Village of Orland Park and what isn't. So the ice cream cone will be inside the building,
Good.
and therefore it's not a sign. If it was outside attached to the sign, it would be prohibited.
okay. We had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
2018 holiday lighting installation.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Fenton.
move to recommend to the village board the approval of payment to HC Lights for the 2018 holiday season lighting renewal in the amount of $106,244.54 as outlined above.
Second.
Carrie, why are we doing this so early? Tell us.
We are doing this so early because we're going to save money. And so by locking in the contract now, we save 10% off of the cost of installation. So we're going to save about $14,500. So that is why we brought this forward now, because every little dollar helps.
Okay. Are there any comments other than our beautiful lights? We all got
Only
lots of
comment-
compliments on
yeah,
this year.
The only comment I heard was from another town's municipal official say we had too many lights. So, we'll take
You
it.
never have too many nights.
Take it. We'll take it.
Any other comments or questions? All right, there was a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Parents Improvement Grant, adjustment to maximum grant amount.
Madam Chair, we are bringing this forward because we're trying to just make some adjustments to the Parents Improvement Grant. We have some money that we're rolling over from the previous budget. We think by increasing the maximum grant allowances from $20,000 to $50,000 is still no more than 50% of the total project cost, that will get some of the larger commercial shopping centers to take advantage of this because it's a little bit more money that will help offset some of those costs. We've had a great utilization of the program in past years. It slowed down a little bit in 2017. And I think, again, if you look at some of the projects that we would like to see take advantage of it, I think that the $50,000 would help encourage people to take a look at the program.
I'm all for it.
You need a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion?
Move to recommend to the village board approval of an adjustment to the Appearance Improvement Grant Program to allow maximum grant amount to be increased from $20,000 to $50,000 per project.
Do we have to state in the motion that it's up to 50% of the cost?
No, because that's not changing. It's still 50%.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Smith Crossing Phase 3 expansion.
Madam Chair, I'm going to turn the mic over to Kashid Hoda, who's been the project manager for this project going through its entitlement. Just as a quick reminder, I think many of the people who are here today in the audience are here to hear about this project. So we have a couple slides that we're going to quickly go through, and then we're going to open it up to any comments or anything that you may have, or the petitioner's also present here with his team tonight as well. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie. So I just wanted to give you a point of reference where the project is located. I mean, as we all know, Project Smith Crossing is located at this, which is 104th Avenue, 183rd Avenue, southwest quadrant. And I also wanted to show you in this slide what else is in this area. This is our I-80 corridor that we have, that we approved the zoning for in the last year or so. And then over here is the Cook County Forest Preserve, and this is Eagles Ridge subdivision over here. And then I-80 is right here. Just showing you a little bit more zoomed in approach to that, what is in this overall area. As you can see, that we have the regional mixed use that we approved in 2017 for all of this area. This is about 150 to 200 acres of development that we expect in the next several years. Smith Crossing is, again, in the third phase of their development. This grassland south was acquired by Cook County Forest Preserve in 2011 and 2012. And again, this is our Eagle Ridge Phase 1. Giving you a little bit of history about how Smith Crossing's development has shaped up. This was their site plan in 2003. As you can see that this roadway, that serpentine-style roadway that was proposed in 2003 is what is constructed, and it is what is out there now. And then this phase of this project, even though it was shown in 2003, but it was not constructed. And this is their 2010 construction or site plan that they submitted. Everything else you can see stays the same except for that roadway connection, and the development that was shown here in 2003 is not shown in this development. I know most of us are here about the issue or the concern for roadway, 104th Avenue extension. I just wanted to point out in our 2010 staff report, we had this, that it is noted that the existing Emily Lane, although indirect, serves as an extension of 104th Avenue to Orland Parkway. That was in 2010 and is copied from our staff report. This is the current proposal that they have, is to terminate Emily Lane within their own development and then connect it back to 183rd Avenue. And then the connection that is on Orland Parkway, it will be only for emergency vehicles, which is fire trucks and police cars and ambulances or so. That is on this side connecting to Orland Parkway. So to show you in a little bit graphic that this is how the current traffic works, is that the Smith Crossing traffic enters or exit off of 183rd, or they connect into Orland Parkway. And then anybody who's not part of the Orland Smith Crossing and they're coming south on 104th Avenue, they make a right turn on 183rd and then connect it to Orland Parkway. That is the current traffic configuration that we have. One more point to understand, that is the 102nd Avenue, which is just a little bit of few hundred feet of roadway construction that was here, but it cannot be extended beyond, because north of 183rd, that land is now owned by Cook County, which is a forest preserve land. So one more thing that you will see, that after this 2018 proposal that Smith Crossing has, the Emily Lane connection to Orland Parkway will be disconnected. What it will do, and I think it is important for everyone to understand in this room, is that all of Smith Crossing traffic will enter and exit off of 183rd, which is not the case as it is today. And so what we also know is the amount of traffic that we have on 183rd, that this traffic will now be added back to 183rd that may be using Orland Parkway from Smith Crossing. I also want to give you a little bit of a background in terms of history. In 1999, this is what the area looked like. It may not be very clear because of the sunlight that is falling on the screen, but this is, you can see, we superimposed Orland Parkway on top of it, but it was all farmland. And even this area that is Cook County's Forest Preserve was also farmland that was owned by the village, or not owned by the village, but it was in village jurisdiction. And we're just showing it what it is looks like now. This is, you can see the Smith Crossing is built here, and the Eagle Ridge is built here. Horton is located east of Smith Crossings. Again, just showing you a little bit more about what is happening in this area from 1999 to present day. In 2017, we approved our regional mixed-use center along I-80 corridor, which is all of this area, and which has not been developed yet, but it is expected in the next few years that we will develop that. And previously in 1999, it was just Zone E1, which is typically what any zone we start with is in Zone E1. I also wanted to show you this I-80 corridor plan that the village approved, the village board approved. And this type of development is expected, if you look at these numbers, this is about 3 million square foot of development is expected that will be utilizing Orland Parkway, LaGrange Road, and Wolf Road overall as their primary means of accessing the site. As you can see, the traffic systems operate in a grid system, which is what we are showing here. And one more thing that is important to know, that in our regional transportation plan, we called out 183rd Avenue as an arterial, which is located right here. And over time, we expect that it will be built. And then also in that same plan, we have shown that 104th Avenue extended from its current location to Orland Parkway. To give you a reference point about the traffic volume that has developed over the last approximately 20 years, the traffic volume on 183rd has grown almost 4,500% in the last 20 years. That is what it is using east-west on 183rd. We have seen growth in traffic on 104th Avenue as well, but not at that magnitude. So one of the things that we will understand is that the traffic will grow no matter what we do. It's going to grow, and then if we do not have a connection north-south, that traffic will utilize 183rd, which will be going in front of Smith Crossing as well as Eagle Ridge, and there's just no other way for them to connect to Orland Parkway. So just to show you again, just the overall roadway network that we have, you can see LaGrange Road is located here and Wolf Road is here, and we do not have any intermediate connection in between these two roadways, which is about 2 miles apart. As I mentioned before, we had thought in our mind that if, when the time will come, if we cannot extend 104th Avenue, we will be able to extend 102nd Avenue, which we do not have that option anymore because Cook County's acquisition of this land in the last 5 years or so, or actually in 2011 and 2012. Again, just showing you for audience purposes that this is what the traffic looks like right now, that the traffic maneuvers through Smith Crossing and connects to Orland Parkway, but once this proposal in 2018 goes through, that connection will be disconnected, and then that traffic will move back in and out off of 183rd Avenue. And this is what just graphically showing where we are looking to extend 104th Avenue. One point to understand here also is that at present, at this location, 183rd and Orland Parkway, it's a 2-lane intersection going westbound, or going west to southbound kind of. Over time, it is expected, so there's a left turn lane and a lane that goes into Orland Parkway and makes a right turn. Over time, when this traffic will grow on Orland Parkway, this traffic will start to back up, and we cannot, give you exact figures, but we anticipate that backup will grow onto 183rd Avenue. That will cause further delay, and the tolerance level for different drivers are different, and it may even be unsafe for some of the drivers who may not tolerate that level of delay off of Orland Parkway. So we have put together a bullet points about a few for a summary of why we are suggesting that the option for 104th Avenue extension should be left open so that we have some time to come up with some solution that is acceptable to us as well as acceptable to Smith Crossing. First of all, in 1999, when the village vacated that roadway, the extension of 104th Avenue, at that time, at least the option of 102nd Avenue was still in place. But as I mentioned, in 2011, 2012, Cook County took over that piece of land that is northeast of 104th and 183rd Avenue. In fact, at that time, we had a development plan which was called Three Bridges, and it was approved by the board, but because of the economic situation and land acquired by the Cook County, that development did not happen. We also believe that providing that 104th Avenue, if I take you back, providing this roadway extension will also help in reducing traffic on 183rd Avenue. Because if we do not provide a relief for this traffic that is coming south on 104th, it will continue to use 183rd and come back to Orland Parkway, and driving most of that traffic will be between the two developments or two subdivisions, which is Smith Crossing as well as Eagle Ridge. We also believe that allowing 104th extension will allow traffic to go onto Collector, which is 104th Avenue is a collector street, versus forcing people to drive within their subdivision to get to Orland Parkway or 183rd Avenue. I also mentioned that in the future, RMZ zone is expected to grow and develop, and that will require a roadway connection, a north-south roadway connection between LaGrange Road and Wolf Road. Again, in 2013, the Village Board of Trustees approved a comprehensive transportation plan, which also calls for 184th Avenue to be extended from 183rd to Orland Parkway. And then, at this point, that is our only option left, because 102nd Avenue cannot be done, and there's no other roadway that is left to meet the demand, the traffic demand that will be coming in the next several years. And we also believe that there are some site options available, and I'll show that to you very quickly. Our intent at this point is that as soon as I know Smith Crossing has some development plans, some villas coming in here. We are willing to work in that where as soon as we cross this intersection, we will start moving this 104th Avenue eastwards and connect Orland Parkway east of their property line. But we just need some flexibility in the northern part of 104th Avenue or the extended 104th Avenue to be able to slide the traffic eastwards. We cannot do that north of 183rd because we do not have ownership right to this property, plus that transition would start to happen further north for us to bring it back to a point where it will work for us. So we're looking for a location where we could move the traffic past the intersection, south of this intersection, and moving into eastwards and staying away from Smith Crossing development.
Rashid, I have a question.
Yes.
You keep saying that we have no other option. What about extending 183rd east to 102nd Avenue?
Okay.
The Forest Preserve does not own that property south of 183rd.
So that's a good point on that, Trustee. The reason for that forces us to come up with two turns. One left turn at 104th and another right turn at 102nd. So that overall, in a traffic flow concept, it wouldn't be the best option that we have.
But it's an option, because you keep saying that we don't have any other option.
The only thing I will add, Trustee, in that is that the volume that is expected to grow and the demand that we'll be generating, we need a direct connection to Orland Parkway. Not, couple turns that we have to, because it will slow down, it will add more traffic signals. If I can project in future at this location or at the next location, depending on what the traffic volumes are, it just overall for the traffic flow, that is not the best case scenario. I mean, we can live with any option that you leave out there, but that's not the best case scenario based on the volume that we have.
Here's the way I see it. A long time ago, pretty sure I was on the board at the time, we
1999.
made a promise not to do this, and what you're basically saying is let's open this up so we put more traffic on 104th, which is precisely what we said we weren't going to do in 1999.
My response would be that in 1999, you have information that was available at that time, and if you look at from 1999 to now, we have made a significant changes.
Hang on. The other information I have in front of me tonight is I have a developer who wants to put in a worthy development, kudos to them, and walk back a promise. So this change is being brought before me because we're trying to do a development. And I would concur with Kathy. I mean, it's not perfect, but I'm pretty sure everybody in Orland Park has figured out how to make it from 80th to 82nd on 151st. So I got to tell you guys, I'm not thrilled about this change because ultimately you're talking about a lot more traffic on 104th, which that's really what this comes down to.
So, Trustee, all I would add to that the traffic will come down on 104th. Instead of going directly to Orland Parkway, they'll be making a right turn on 183rd.
And I hear you, but that's always the problem with projections. We're assuming that people who live on the north side of Orland who might work down here eventually aren't going to stay on LaGrange now that we fixed it, or aren't going to fly out to Wolf now that we fixed it. And so go back to your traffic data if you could. So Orland, so I get the traffic increase on 183rd, given the intensity of the uses we now have over there. So this is an average weekday. So it includes the weekends.
Yes, this is actually annual average.
And it's a
daily
great cut through. So when I hit that McDonald's at 179th and Wolf for coffee, I'll usually shoot around because it's less light on Parkway to get to I-80. So I get this. And trust me, I've lived for 20 years with the traffic increase on 104th, and I understand the planning goal you're trying to map back to. I get it. I get all the constraints you're putting into the system. I don't know if I like it.
And I think from staff, we're just trying to lay it out to give you everything that has changed from 1999 to today. We recognize at the end of the day, this is going to be a policy decision that the board has to make. But we do believe that there's an opportunity to address it in a comprehensive way and without trying to avoid impact.
I
But at the
get
end
it.
of the
And
day,
so my recollection was the traffic that was going on 183rd till it got around was the setbacks are farther than they are on 104th. Does that, if memory serves? Can you go, come, I guess, the other way in your presentation where you showed the stub street at 102nd on an area, Voto?
yeah, next to ATP, yeah.
That one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it would take a combined act of God, Congress, and the UN to get a scrap of land from the county forest preserve district at a reasonable
Right.
price. So that's not going to happen. But to Kathy's point, you know, if you're trying to fan out the traffic without necessarily making it 104th Avenue Speedway, is there no option to finish up 102nd on the property that's not county?
I'm sure that certainly can be done.
It's not perfect, because it
Right,
reminds me,
right.
we're going to recreate 80th and 82nd. I get it.
Right. I mean, it's certainly an option in the future if this one is precluded from moving forward. Yes, that is something that we would definitely have to look at for this region as it continues to build up. Yeah.
Because, you know, it's one of those things that we're all long-suffering Southsiders, and, you know, until you really get a Wolf Road interchange, right, and Wolf Road gets fixed, now LaGrange is fixed, I'm very leery of opening this back up because of what it's going to do to 104th.
So, trust,
I totally agree, because we also made that promise to those residents that that road isn't going to go through. If Smith Crossings does their next project, which is going to put additional villas to the east of, I'm assuming that's a pond, in there, that road would be right up against those people. So why would anybody want to buy a villa that's going to be right up against a road when, in fact, there is another option? I guess that's the part that bothers me, is that I'm being told there are no other options. This is the only thing. God only knows it only can be 104th going through to Orland Parkway. When it isn't, something else can be done. And I think to say that the residents are going to get their underwear in a bunch because they have to make two turns,
Is that a
Is-
technical term in planning?
yes, yes, it is. So, I mean, there are other options. And that's part of my issue right now, plus the fact that I was on the board, I was part of this motion that we made to those residents, and I for one, am not going back on my word to the residents.
So my comments, and I wasn't on the board back then, but I went back and read the minutes. I looked at, you know, everything that transpired. Before Smith Crossing bought this property, the village vacated that easement for the right-of-way. Smith Crossing relied upon that vacation of easement. I bet a whole bunch of money they would not have put their villas where they put them had they known there was going to be a roadway there someday. That, coupled with the promises that were made to the residents, which is clear in reviewing the Plan Commission reports and the board meeting minutes, I just don't think it's good government. I understand things have changed, but we are bound by actions that were, you know, former boards took and promises made to developers and to residents, and therefore, I think the alternative of 102nd Avenue is much better. So, for that reason, I would agree.
It's not a perfect option. Sorry, Carol.
No, I was just going to say, now I know there are people who are here to talk. Has anyone signed in? Is there anyone who would like to address? Are you?
That's
okay?
right.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
You guys know me. My name's Janet Polson, and I am a homeowner at Eagle Ridge, and I was the original rabble-rouser when all of this started. I have a real problem with this. In 1999, absolutely, we came here. You keep saying that things have changed. Yes, they have, but at the time that this was put through, I believe we were calling it Enterprise Drive. It wasn't a sparkle in somebody's eye. We had full-out drawings. We knew that this was coming. And blocking 104th Avenue was the board's way of protecting our subdivision. Every member of the board was in favor of doing that. Every member. In 2010, it started to come up again. I reached out to Bob Sullivan and said, hey, what's going on? 104th Avenue extension has been questioned. the right-of-way, you know, we need to know what's going on. Do I need to get the subdivision together to come in and talk? Bob's response to me was, the 104th Avenue connection to Orland Parkway was questioned at a public meeting related to Smith Crossing. That was the extent of it. The connection was previously opposed by the village board, as you correctly pointed out, and the right-of-way was actually vacated back then. So there is no place to put the road unless right-of-way was purchased back from the landowners. There is no intent to pursue this. We made a promise. That promise doesn't change as you so carelessly and callously refer to, you know, drivers who have a low threshold for patience. I'm sorry, not one homeowner was notified of this change. The townhouses and condos were, the homeowners weren't. We are every bit as important and should have been notified. Now, to some of the things that you're saying about this, thank you. There are alternatives. There are always alternatives. And people who come down that way, you forget, 104th Avenue is only opened at 159th. So really, not that many people are going to be inconvenienced. Are they going to come through our subdivision? Probably not. If you have driven it, have you driven it? Have you driven through Eagle Ridge? Have you driven Maui Avenue? Have you driven Owen Drive? Have you driven Eagle Ridge? Have you driven? Then you know it is slow as molasses. Nobody is going to use that as a cut through. Good God!
Don't let your secret out, Janet. Come on, we're trying.
I mean, oh my God! Nobody is going to use that as a shortcut. And I think that we do need to take that promise seriously. We all did things to our yards. This company made short-term, long-term, mid-term plans. If you're worried about your reputation, doing something like that and forcibly taking right-of-way from a company when you vacated it is going to give you a worse reputation. The last thing, my husband is the vice president of operations and distribution. They put warehouses all over the United States. This is a Fortune 10 company. I told him about this and what your issues were about 104th Avenue going through. He laughed. He said there is not any company that he has ever dealt with who would not consider putting in a facility based on having to drive an extra mile one way or the other, so long as there was easy access to major roads. So
No.
I'm done. We depend on you guys to protect our home, to protect us first and foremost. And that really needs to be considered.
I know one of the I know there's representatives from Smith Crossing here, and I guess I just wanted to get, if you'd come up, could you state your name?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Kevin McGee, and I currently serve in the role as CEO of Smith Senior Living. I would just like to acknowledge the comments that were made by the trustees this evening to the promise that was made to our organization. As you look to the north of our property is Eagle Ridge, as we all know, and our organization was sought out as the village was trying to figure out a buffer between a proposed industrial parkway or to be a buffer. And one of the suggestions was to be a retirement community. And so again, the village sought us out to purchase that property, but we only did that when the agreement, the commitment that was made by the village of Orland Park to not only Smith Crossing, but to the residents of Eagle Ridge was to vacate that road. And I would also have to say there's also a lift station. So the village back then did totally abandon the idea of putting that road together, because if you take that road all the way through, there's a lift station there. So I would ask, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight, but I would ask that the village commit to what they made to us in 1999 is we are trying to expand our mission and serve the greater community of Orland Park, and to expand our rehab project on the west end of our campus, which really has nothing to do with the east end of the campus. So,
And my understanding, it's a 46-bed unit, rehab unit?
46 skilled beds. As you know, we are in Will County, and Will County is one of the 100 fastest counties in the country. And the state of Illinois has a certificate of need board, and recently they came out with a study saying that there's a 276 skilled care bed need. We're only applying for 11% of that. So it's a $22 million expansion along Orland Parkway, which would bring the total investment that our organization has made to about $117 million on Orland Parkway.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to make a motion.
Trustee Patton?
Move to recommend to the Village Board of Trustees to approve the preliminary site plan elevations, preliminary landscape plan, and special use permit amendment to Smith Crossings located at 10501 Emily Lane as recommended at the March 13th, 2018 Plan Commission meeting as indicated in the below fully referenced motion, with the exception of deleting item 1 and 1A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One thing I do want to add, Madam Chair, I'd like you guys to keep grinding on this, right? Because as we keep going forward, I don't want to put more things back through on 104th. I want to be clear on that one. But, you know, as we think about the transportation assets, yeah, it matters, and I'm not quite sure if we can relieve traffic on this. I think there's some signs that Mokina someday may come along around to the idea of a Wolf Road interchange. I know there's been some very preliminary conversations on that one. This whole area needs all the south suburban areas. We need another interchange on I-80 at Wolf. And so I've always been hopeful that we get that, because I think this area would then pop. And then, you know, I think to Janet's point earlier, you know, a mile or two in either direction back to LaGrange or an expanded Wolf with an interchange solves some of the issues. I think you guys are doing the right things from a planning perspective. And this is one of those painful realities where we would have had different options if the county didn't snatch that property without talking to us first. So we're put in a tight spot, all of us, I think, that are in this room, so.
Madam Chair? Just for the people in the audience, in case they want to know what I did, in the Plan Commission recommendation, it was in there that 104th go-through. I took that option out.
So, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yep.
Technology, Innovation, and Performance Improvement Committee, approval of minutes. I'm sorry, no minutes. Implementation of Sportsplex and Village Hall Campus Milestone, Access Software, Hardware, IP Camera, and Server Replacement Upgrades.
Oh, quick.
You okay, Frank? All right. Sir,
Mr. Chairman?
go ahead, Carol.
I move to recommend to the village board to approve the request for the implementation of the Milestone Access IP camera system upgrade for the Sportsplex and additional hardware for the Village Hall campus to allow for video backup recordings and future growth for the Village Hall campus IP camera and its security.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Proposed Lean Six Sigma report template and BIS project overview.
Okay, guys, this will be the most exciting agenda item we have tonight. It's okay if everybody leaves. This is pretty dull government stuff. We're not going to be offended, right?
Trustee Dodge, I take a little offense to that.
Hey.
I am very passionate about Lean Six Sigma. In fact, so much so that I tried to implement some of those principles at home. That got me into a little trouble with my wife. However,
Yeah, I wonder why, right?
I will. Hopefully, it goes better.
Yeah, spouses usually don't respond well to
They don't
performance
respond well
metrics.
to
no.
Lean Six Sigma initiatives.
So if I could just add something before Ahmad starts, that if you recall, we decided to put together a Lean Six Sigma team.
Right.
We've done a lot of training in Lean. We've had several, a number of staff get their green belt, and even more staff get their yellow belts. And so we're getting ready to start reporting on some of these projects that we've done and what we're planning on doing. So Ahmad can kind of give you a brief teaser of what's to come in April.
Which is good. So should we change the name of this to Here's Your Savings, as we've talked about?
Sure. Yeah,
All right.
let's do that.
So go ahead. So this is, let's make this an update because we still have another agenda.
Like Joe mentioned, we worked on putting together a template to provide a high-level overview of the projects that have been taking place in the village, across the village-wide. This template is intended to just be a guideline for Six Sigma written certification projects. The report will be similar in organization and contain similar headings. The information in our report will follow either the DMAIC or DMATB methodologies in Six Sigma.
So just to translate that, so whether we're fixing something or we're designing
Something to fix. Fix a problem that we're having. The project reports will include descriptions, key points in the problem-solving process, detailed support for our conclusions and any recommendations. We recognize some of the reports will be repetitive, but we feel that it's important, depending on the projects themselves, to highlight the specifics. Ultimately, we want to produce a high-quality, professional presented report that has sufficient details to help the Lean Six Sigma practitioners utilize and build upon projects' findings.
So how do you guys feel about the progress we've made? So we're getting a lot of base building stuff in place, but I think we're all aware there's a revenue problem, right? And so there's only a couple different ways you can solve that. And so getting better at what you do is one of them. So Joe, broadly from your perspective, where are we on implementation? And where, from your perspective, how are people responsive to? There's no magic with this approach other than it's structured, and if you apply it in a disciplined way, you'll find improvements. So what's happening?
Well, I think that we have started seeing some improvements, whether it's through the technology or just a change in us doing business, day-to-day business. Some are cost-saving measures, and then there are some that are just time-saving measures, just by implementing it. We will. There are a couple of our projects. We can only go so far until the technology piece gets in, which Frank's going to be talking about in just a second, that will get us the rest of that way. So by the end of the year, we'll have a number of our green projects that are fully implemented, and I'm confident, just based on the preliminary numbers and talking to staff, that we're going to see some remarkable improvements in the way that we're doing business here.
Questions?
And if I could just add too, it's just another way that staff is looking at things and approaching things, whether it's through a micro business, whether it's through one of the lean processes, or someone from Ahmad and his team. But Ahmad's been doing a really good job with Assistant Village Manager Keating and also Director Florentine as well.
So where are we going to be in a month?
We're going to be able to give you a report that is going to tell you the projects that, the status of the projects that we started last year, where we are, because, last year we had done them. We had a beautiful report, but they had yet to be implemented, so we started implementing those projects, so we'll have some data to share with you. We'll be able to show you the way it was done before versus the way that it's done now. We'll be talking about some of our efficiencies that we've found, whether a cost savings and or just a workflow efficiency to get things done faster and doing things smarter and easier. We'll talk about just a number of things. Ahmad, if you want to just kind of go through the highlights of
briefly,
the report.
because we got to cover Frank, then we got to get to Kathy's agenda.
There were multiple projects that were implemented, and they are in different phases, and we will bring team members from those projects to in the near future to present their findings on any of the updates.
You guys do know the quote from Deming, right? In God we trust, all others bring data. You got that?
Yep.
Okay, see you in a month.
Data is our new friend.
That's your new rule.
Yep.
All right, Frank?
All right, Mr. Chair. So we wanted to take an overview of what we've done since 2016 is when I was started around July.
Frank, I don't know if you're close enough to the mic if everybody can hear you.
Okay, is that better?
I think so.
All right. So I want to sort of lay out where we are on a timeline perspective. Came in, we said we want to get applicant tracking installed. We want to be able to take and have our jobs out there in more of an electronic fashion, so the spiders can grab it, so more people can apply to our jobs. So 2016, we did that legwork, we implemented first of the year 2017, and we've been using it pretty successfully since the implementation. So that means no paper. So when a manager has a job, they have a link they click on, they go to that candidate selection, there'll be 1 to 50 candidates in there, they review those candidates, they talk to them online through the system, they can interview them through the system, the comments get put in there, and they self-serve themselves from an applicant standpoint. So from that, cuts down on the paperwork back and forth and allows us to be able to reciprocate quickly and tell them how they're doing in the interview process, which is one of the goals that we had with the implementation of the system. One of the next projects we went to RFP for was for a village-wide asset management system and community development application where we can take blueprints online, let people file for permits online, pay online, go through the review process online, collaborate online, and not have to walk into the village. So right now, it's two-forked. The first part of it is really around work order management and asset management, and we're in the process of implementing that as we speak. John's team is one of the teams. It's the largest team for the EAM is what we call it. It's Enterprise Asset Management. And all John's divisions will respond to work orders electronically. All their assets or all their inventory will be input in the system over time. We have a pretty good base of inventory right now. The parks, for example, is going out and using GIS technology with their cell phones, which is before they would have to have a different device, a Trimble device, which is a very accurate device for locating assets out in the field, like trees or parks. But the cell phone gives them a radius of about 3 feet. So for them, it's perfect. So they can go out and asset every park, every swing, every tree, every park bench, every ball courts, anything.
So Frank, that's we're installing, I just want to make sure we're clear. So we're building that technology or installing that technology, or that's already up and running?
No, that's what we're installing now. The folks are out geotagging.
So it's up and running?
No.
No, okay.
We're building it right now.
So I guess I'm in a hurry. So it's up and running, John?
Yes, it will be up and running.
In progress.
In
So
progress.
we do plan on going live in June.
June, okay.
We're
got
that
it.
close. So
With parks.
Public Works will be going in live in June.
Okay.
The other big project that's going on will be dev services. They'll take a better part of 6 to 8 months to implement. Very process oriented with them, so we got to sit down and go.
And so that's where people can go through the permitting process and submit online, so we get out of the paper shuffling business?
Correct.
When's that going to be done?
We hope by first quarter next year.
Okay.
So, but we've actually pulled their implementation date to start in June rather than July because things are going so well with the teams and they're actually embracing the technology so well that we don't see a reason why we should wait.
And Trustee Dodge, to that point, that's the permitting process and development services. That's one of those projects, those Greenbelt projects that we've gotten to a certain part, and once that technology is in, we'll be able to finish it off. But we have permits that now we're waiting for people to pick up the permits because we're getting them done so quickly.
Really? So we're faster than the development community at the moment?
We are. So we've done some things as part of our Greenbelt process that we did in our department to review how a commercial permit is issued in the whole process. We've tweaked some of those things. We've also implemented a pilot expedited plan review for small commercial reviews under a certain square footage. That they can actually come in and sit with Mike Coleman, our building official, and our inspectors and get it reviewed and approved and issued that very same day. So we were able to...
How's that being received by the customers?
They love it. They absolutely love it. And we've also, the way we've handled some of our field inspections versus our plan reviewing, that has changed too in the last 6 months. But once we get Tyler Technologies on board for us, they'll be able to they'll be able to view where they are in the review process by going online without having to pick up a phone or call or to email. They can submit their plans electronically. We can review and approve them electronically. We can issue building permits electronically. All those things we can't do right now.
Got it. All right.
So other projects, the fiber installation, I'll just jump off Tyler for now. with the assistance of the School District 135 and their board and Director Rick Hansen, they've allowed us to use extra conduit that they've had available. That allowed us to escalate our timelines around putting fiber in. We've put in approximately 9 miles of our own fiber within the village. Now we've connected up facilities that before were only connected via a radio signal. So that being said, it gives us a lot of opportunity to go ahead.
And we've got this entire report.
You guys have the entire report in there. So this is a sort of a bird's eye view, 10,000-foot view of how the projects are going, what projects are in queue. And these are major capital projects. These aren't all the small projects we're doing on the databases or the cameras or the Wi-Fi and things like that we have going on. But highlight, there's a lot going on. And it's a small team that's really making it happen. Mary Klinger on Tyler, Norm Johnson on a lot of the back office stuff in the databases. Donna keeping up with the tickets and the team, keeping them on point. But it's really collaborative. Every department in the village wants to be better, and they want to be able to communicate better. So the software is helping them do that, and that's where the efficiencies will come at the end of the day.
Okay. And a lot of data coming, so we'll be able to get with the Tyler technology. We'll be able to get survey results after we finish a project. I know that talked to Mike Holman and Krishit and their team. They are starting to collect some data and get some feedback, so we can see how we're doing. And same thing with Public Works. Once we have Tyler Technologies installed, we'll be able to email out surveys right after a project's done.
Right.
And same thing with Parks.
And as you see in red on the screen, as projects are implemented and put into production, other software services go away. So Tyler takes over a bulk of services we're doing today. It isn't a one-for-one, but it is definitely a cost savings when we try to bring things in-house and make one ecosystem. So I just want to highlight the fact that, yes, we're spending money on software, we're spending money on training, but we are also taking some economies of scale on the back end when we are able to see some of the other software that's out there today that isn't working well for us. So, and it's significant savings. 30,000 here, 20,000 here, 10,000 here. It's a big deal. So it adds up. So it makes that burn of buying a new software implementation of
Balance out,
package
right.
a little bit less.
All right, good, thank you. Public Works.
Public Works? Approval of minutes?
Madam Chair,
Trustee Ruzick?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Public Works of February 19, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Asphalt roadway crack sealing?
Madam Chair.
Trustee Dodge?
Move to recommend to the village board to accept the bid from Patriot Pavement Maintenance of Des Plaines, Illinois for calendar years 18, 19, and 20 for an amount not to exceed $100,000 for the fiscal year 18, an amount not to exceed board approved funding for the fiscal years 19 and 20.
Second.
Do you have anything you want to add?
I would just like to offer that when we went out to bid this year, we did have 2 bidders. There were approximately 7 companies that downloaded the bid spec, but only 2 bid. And the bid that we received is actually about 10% less than what we were paying last year.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bulk material purchase?
Madam Chair,
Trustee Ruzick?
I move to recommend to the village board to approve waiving the bid process and recommend to approve the proposal from Willie Brothers Company of Oak Forest, Illinois for bulk ready-mix concrete for fiscal year 2018 for a cost not to exceed the total board-approved budgeted amount.
Second.
Any comment?
You want to explain?
No.
Waive the bid.
Do you want to explain why we waived the bid?
We went to the 4 local vendors that provide concrete in the area, their most viable vendors. We selected the lowest proposal. They also are able to provide the concrete using the front discharge chute as compared to some of the other vendors which use the rear discharge chute, which requires an extra person on our staff to be able to manage.
Got it. Okay.
Is there any questions from anybody in the audience about this particular item? All in favor?
Aye.
Main pump station motor control center replacement proposal?
Madam Chair,
Trustee Ruzick?
I move to recommend to the village board to accept the proposal from Greeley and Hansen of Chicago, Illinois for main pump station MCC replacement in an amount of $238,000 plus $12,000 contingency.
Second.
Any comments?
This is a huge project for us. It's a long time coming. The motor control center is what manages the electricity, operates the motors that pump the water for the village. Greeley and Hansen is the original design engineer that helped us construct the main pump station, and they've also been involved in every upgrade that we've done at the main pump station. I do have Lee Melcher and Jay Balinski from Greeley and Hansen here if you had any technical questions that you wanted to ask. The $238,000 is the engineering portion of it. The overall cost of it is expected to be just over $1 million. We hope to implement the upgrades next year. As part of the upgrades, we'll be looking at replacing the motor control center. We'll be adding a new programmable logic controller to operate the standby generator. We'll be making electrical safety upgrades. And then we're also going to be looking at adding another redundant electrical connection. If for some reason, right now we have 2 ComEd feeds that service the pump station. If one of those ComEd feeds goes down, it'll switch to the other. We have the permanent standby generator there, and if that fails, then we're looking at putting in a portable generator connection that we can bring in should there be a extremely catastrophic failure. So redundancy is the key thing when we're dealing with potable water.
Does anyone have any comments from the audience about our water system and the electronics that go with it? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Consulting engineering services for St. Michael's parking lot 48 CMP replacement.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Dodge?
move to recommend to the village board to accept the proposal from Christopher Burke, of Rosemont, Illinois, for St. Michael's parking lot 48-inch CMP replacement engineering services for amount not to exceed $78,416.
Second.
John?
We call this the St. Michael's parking lot culvert replacement because that's where the creek used to run through that drained the water from the Westwood area from Brown Park. As you're aware, we've previously done stormwater improvements that improved the drainage area up near Westwood and 147th Street. And this is actually an extension of that project. The current pipe that was installed under St. Michael's parking lot, it's a 48-inch corrugated metal pipe, and it's failing. So we need to look at upgrading that pipe. And at the same time, we'll look at improving some flooding conditions that currently occur in the area of Irving and Highland Avenue in 144th.
Does anyone have any comments about the St. Michael's Park drainage system? St. Mike Parish, sorry. All in favor? Aye.
2018-19 road salt joint purchasing requisition.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Rizek?
I move to recommend to the village board to authorize the village manager to renew and execute the Illinois joint purchasing requisition with the Illinois Department of Central Management Services for road salt for the 2018-2019 snow season.
Second.
Hopefully that's just the 2019. Hopefully we're done with 2019.
Tomorrow is spring, I believe, and winter is not over yet. This is a required contract that we do. We do it every year. Every 2 years, it's bid by CMS. We're in the second year of the contract. We're recommending continuing the contract that we have with Compass Mineral. We had a few minor issues that we were able to deal with them, but the price that we have is good. The max they can increase the price is, I believe, 5%. We can increase the amount that we purchase by 10%. I am recommending a small increase in the amount that we purchase for next year, just a minor 200 tons. But a little bit concerned. We've had some good years. I'm afraid that we might be getting into a bad year next year. I just want to be prepared.
How long have you been doing this, John? Gonna have a bad winter next year, maybe?
Does anyone have any comments about our salt purchase for next year? State your name, please.
Sure, John Dalton. I didn't hear a price per ton.
We're currently paying $43.51, I believe, per ton.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye.
Stormwater easement 138-35 84th Avenue.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Ruzick.
I move to recommend to the village board to pass an ordinance entitled Ordinance Authorizing Acceptance and Execution of Grant of Public Utility and Drainage Easement and Payment of compensation therefore for the Villa Dieste Stormwater Project.
Second.
John?
If I could, I'd just digress on the last one. It's $43.41 per ton that we were paying last year. I apologize. The easement, this is just cleanup for a stormwater improvement project that we did. When we went to install the pipe, there were a number of utilities that required that we slide the pipe slightly out of the existing easement, and this is just the additional easement that's needed to accommodate the exact pipe location.
Does anyone have any comments about the private property in Villa Dieste? All in favor? Aye.
Do you have a motion on it?
I made the motion. Jim seconded.
That's it. Adjourn.
No, one more. Isn't there one more?
Mm-hmm.
The Fairway.
Fairway Stage 1 road improvement project following stormwater and water.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Dodge.
move to recommend to the village board to waive the bid process and recommend to approve proposal from Burke LLC of Rosemont, Illinois for a guaranteed maximum price of $668,800 for the Fairway Stage 1 roadway improvement project.
Second.
John?
This one, we're waiving the bid on this one. This is one of those efficiencies. This is an opportunity to utilize the same contractor that has established relationships with many of the residents that live over in that area. In 2017, we tore up a good portion of the Fairway subdivision, doing a stormwater improvement project, installing a storm sewer pipe, and also replacing all the water main. We're in the process of closing out that project, and what we found when we bring in a separate contractor to do the road program, which we try and do immediately following an infrastructure improvement, we find that there's a lot of finger pointing, is who made what mess, who made this mess there. We evaluated the pricing that Burke LLC gave us, and it's extremely consistent with what we expect the bids to be for the improvement if it were done through the bid process. So I think this is a win-win from a communication and a pricing perspective.
Does anyone have any comments about the Fairway Road Improvement Project with the stormwater? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
All right, so I guess village board will be back here in a couple minutes for the full meeting.